Welcome to the Impact Summit Series Identity event. This is the fifth in a series of events powered by GSA's Technology Transformation Services, also known as TTS. We're very excited to have so many of you join us today. I'm Melissa Keene, a Presidential Innovation Fellow here at TTS. While I cover some quick housekeeping notes, please introduce yourself. Please put your name, agency, and what brought you here today in the chat window. Here are those housekeeping notes before we get started. Everyone is automatically muted, so if you have a question, please type it in the chat box and we'll answer as many as we can in the Q&A sessions. We're recording today's session and we'll post it to the event page, along with the other resources you'll see shared here today. A link to live captioning for this event will be provided in the chat. Please make sure you're abiding by the TTS Code of Conduct throughout our time together. For our media friends with inquiries, please email press@gsa.gov with the topic you'd like to talk about and your deadline. As you can see, we have a packed agenda. We hope today's event will continue the conversations that were started in the kickoff and bring insight into how government agencies can leverage identity. It's a foundational component that is needed to provide a fully digital experience to the public. Now I'll pass things over to Phil Lamb, the Executive Director of the Identity Portfolio here at TTS. He'll kick things off.
Hello, everyone. Today we'll be focusing on identity in government and the impact of our TTS partners in this space. Our goal here in the TTS Identity Portfolio is to equip federal agencies with tools, services, and platforms to optimize operations, aid decisions, and engage the public. We believe that constituent-facing agencies share common challenges in authenticating and verifying the identity of their users, and thus are best served through shared solution sets. We're going to hear from agency leaders across the federal government about their experience using identity solutions for effective government delivery of services and benefits to the public. The stories you will hear today in identity are the culmination of years of investment across multiple groups at TTS. In particular, Login.gov started as a project within 18F, an organization that collaborates with agencies to rapidly address technical challenges. Over the years, Login has grown with the continued support of 18F and the Presidential Innovation Fellows, and is now part of the larger identity portfolio that addresses not only technology, but policy and strategy regarding the identity challenges facing the American public. These combined skill sets and experiences across TTS created the building blocks of these agency stories, and we are happy to present them to you today. As we get warmed up here, we'd love to first hear from you via Zoom poll. If you're unable to see the poll, since you're viewing from a browser, please put your answer in the chat. So today's poll is, what is top of mind when you think about identity? Privacy, compliance, user experience, policy, and other. We have a lot of privacy professionals on the line today, which is great to see. Identity, of course, is a core component of ensuring the privacy of our users, and this can be a great talking point with our keynote. That's great. I see some product people in here too. So user experience is a great thing that we all have to innovate on, especially as we present products to the community to make sure it's accessible. All right. Well, it looks like privacy is our clear winner here with 40%, or sorry, 40 folks that see it as top of mind, which is a great segue. And I'd love to introduce now our Chief Privacy Officer, Richard Speidel, who will kick off this event. For the past 4 years, Richard has overseen GSA's privacy program with the mission to preserve and enhance privacy protections for all individuals whose personal information is handled by GSA, to encourage transparency of GSA operations involving PII, and to support privacy-enabling technology services.
Hello, everyone. I'm Richard Speidel, GSA's Chief Privacy Officer. I want to warmly welcome you to the TTS Impact Series. Today, we're focusing on identity. Identity is an important part of protecting people's privacy. Strong and reliable digital identities can help prevent someone else from assuming your identity online. You can and should control your digital identity, especially as it can provide you access to government services and information in new ways. We are always working to ensure that your identity is validated against the most reliable and up-to-date records, and that your sensitive information is disclosed only with your consent. We at GSA take a very forward-leaning approach to ensure our identity solutions not only meet the law, but also put the citizen first. We assess potential privacy risks from the user's perspective, and that perspective has allowed us to develop new security standards and best practices. One of the best practices that we're employing at GSA is the NIST Privacy Framework. This overall framework enables us to operationalize privacy by design with our product teams, ensuring tight coordination across privacy, security, technical, and product teams. One of my favorite aspects of my job is learning about the latest innovations from across these diverse teams and working closely with them to solve pressing business problems, and then also introducing these teams to other experts across government. I'm excited to continue on this journey with TTS as it develops and improves its identity solutions and moves these best practices forward as a shared service across all our agency partners.
Richard touched on the great new things we're doing at GSA. Now we're going to hear from Lauren Lee and Heather Dyer at the United States Postal Service to share about USPS address verification and in-person proofing capability. Lauren is the Director of Digital Business Services at the Postal Service, and Heather is the Director of Identity and Access Management within CISO at the US Postal Service. Lauren and Heather, over to you.
Thanks, Melissa. I'll go ahead and get us started. Hi, everyone. Lauren Lee. If you move on to the next slide, and maybe one more after that, we'll go ahead and get started. So for over 245 years, the Postal Service has been serving its mission to bind the nation. It's in our mission to provide trusted, safe, and secure services between our government and the American public. The Postal Service has also been consistently voted as the #1 trusted organization, and we hold that title with an honor and sense of responsibility to the American public. Next slide. The Postal Service delivers 48% of the world's mail. And how do we do that? With over 31,000 post offices being serviced by 630,000 employees, we have over 228,000 delivery vehicles that travel over 4.5 million miles a day. Because of this, we were able to operationalize processes with precision and at a scale that not many other organizations can match. Next slide. 99% of the US population is within 10 miles of the post office. We are very close to your customers. And I'd like you to think about the Postal Service infrastructure as an asset to all of government. In some cases, we are the only building in a small town that the community can congregate in, and we visit your customers every single day. Next slide. It is our goal to provide all Americans with open access to our unrivaled delivery network as well as our storefront network. Think about us as an asset to all of government, and how could you utilize our infrastructure to better service your customers? One way that we're doing this is with identity services, and this is what we're going to talk a little bit more about. You go on to the next slide, we'll get into the meat. So first, I want to talk a little bit about biometric capture. Move on to the next slide. And tell you a little bit about what we're doing today with different agencies. First, we started off a problem, or solving a problem within the Postal Service. The Postal Service hires over 120,000 employees a year. It's a lot of hiring. And we, like many agencies, were having our applicants go down to the local police station and get hard copy printed. This was taking us a very long time to turn these prints around and actually complete the hiring or the background check and hiring process. So we moved to digitize this experience for our applicants. To date, we've processed over 475,000 fingerprints for the Postal Service. As we were doing this, we thought other agencies have this similar challenge. So we began working with the FBI, and they have a program called Identity History Summary Check, where applicants can self-elect to get a rap sheet. Maybe they want to apply for a visa, they want to coach Little League, or adopt. They were most likely going to their local police stations as well, getting the fingerprints, and the FBI had about a 14-week cycle time on turning those fingerprints around. Now, at over 101 locations, we offer this service to allow the applicants to come in and get their fingerprints done. And what we see from the results is that many of the applicants understand or get their rap sheet back within less than a day. Sometimes they get them before they even leave the parking lot. Sometimes that's a little bit too soon for us, but it's working. It's making government more efficient. The FBI is happy with the success of the program, and we have happy customers. We're looking to expand this service to be able to provide fingerprint capture services to other government agencies for background checks or PIV card enrollments. I'm going to turn it over to Heather, and she's going to speak a little bit about how the technology works. Heather, next slide.
Thanks, Lauren. Hi, Heather Dyer. Good afternoon, everyone. Excited to be here talking to you. It is a very simple process, as Lauren talked about, right? We are collecting and processing the fingerprints from a customer registering in the desired agency. So they register with the FBI in that case, and that comes through our systems. The customer comes in, we have a scheduling tool that allows them to schedule the time frame that they're looking for. Our trained and certified clerks collect the biometrics with the fingerprint capture equipment. And then that goes and transfers over to the different data agency transfer options. The clerk is notified if the data submission is not confirmed. So we ensure that we are collecting and processing those timely, and they are being passed back and forth. We are in the process of procuring new technology solution. We'll be working that for the next upcoming FY and deploying, as Lauren said, to additional sites and locations to better serve the population. With that, I'm going to turn it back to Lauren.
Thanks. Next slide. The other identity service that we offer is in-person proofing. So like many other agencies, we do online verification for our services, primarily for a product called Informed Delivery. If you have not signed up, please go on to USPS.com and sign up for Informed Delivery. This is a service that allows you as a customer to get images of the pieces of mail pieces that are coming to your mailbox. You may be on the lookout for, unfortunately, a bill or maybe a check that could potentially be in the mail. But we have the need to understand, does the person match the address? That's critically important so that we can protect the privacy of the mail piece. So we do an online verification process, but we're challenged with that, like many agencies are. Not everyone can pass the online verification process. There's reasons for that. You may have a hold on your identity or other reasons. And so it was important for us to be able to still provide access to the service for customers who need to sign up for it. And so we instituted in-person proofing at our delivery units. If you go to the next slide. I'll give it just a high level, and then Heather will go into the details. But essentially, if you go online and if you fail out of the process, we give you the option to come in person to prove your identity. We send you an email with a barcode. You bring that barcode into the office. the clerk scans the barcode, asks for your ID, and they do a physical verification check. It's a very simple process, and it allows access to other government agents, or excuse me, it allows access to the applicants that want to apply for the service. We're looking to provide this to other government agencies who also have similar challenges with online verification. In some cases, we know that the failure rate can be anywhere between 40 and 60%. So what's happening with those customers? Do you have the infrastructure to be able to continue that proofing process in an in-person fashion? If you don't, the Postal Service could provide this service to you, and we're working with other agencies today, including GSA, to get a pilot going to provide in-person proofing services for Login.gov. We're really excited about this opportunity. All right, I'll turn it over to Heather, and she'll speak a little bit more about how the technology works.
Yeah, I think just to touch real quickly, because I know where everybody has questions that they want to be able to ask us, and we still have one more topic to cover. We do have, web service APIs to transmit the data back and forth between the agencies that we're going to partner with. We're in 17,000 locations, right? So that's, like Lauren said, over 99% of the population is able, to access a postal service within 10 miles. The biggest exciting thing that we're looking forward to for the next early in FY21 is we will be working towards IAL2 certification. So that's the big focus for us this first part of the fiscal year. And we know that other agencies do require that document validation. So we're looking forward to that and partnering with the agencies on the in-person proofing capability. We could go to the next slide. Again, it's a very simple registration process. I don't think we need to walk all the way through, but you can register either through an agency or through our website, come in, provide your documentation, and then the results are sent back to the requesting agency. Next slide. So our final topic, address verification, is one that we're excited about. Phil, I know, is excited about this one as well, and we're looking forward to continuing the partnership to really offer this service, which we know is critically needed as part of credentialing for somebody for their address. You can go to the next slide. So Lauren touched on this, but believe it or not, Postal Service also relies on third-party vendors to identity proof a customer lives at the address that they say they do. We are in the process of developing technology that will allow us to leverage our mail and package information to be able to provide a confidence score that an individual lives at the address that they say they do. So we'll be using this internally, as we talked about, informed delivery and hold mail, to proof those customers that are trying to sign up online for those services. For us, informed delivery, what we care about is that that person is who they say they are and has the ability and the access to that address. So again, we'll return a confidence score. It will not be it'll simply provide the confidence in a yes/no type of scoring method. Next slide. So we are looking, like I said, this year we'll be focused on developing out the technology and doing a proof of concept with some mock data. This is in partnership with GSA. We'll be doing our own internal proof of concepts on our identity verification systems for our own informed delivery customers. And then we'll look to expand that pilot with GSA using live data, hopefully by the end of this FY. And then, of course, look to expand that offering out to other government agencies at this time. And I think that wraps up our slides. We're open for questions.
Thanks so much, Heather and Lauren. Now we're going to take questions, like Heather said. Please type them in the chat box. It looks like our attendees are already eager to hear more information about this work. The first question we have is, how many biometric or fingerprint collections does USPS process in a month?
I can take that. It kind of depends. So on average, it's around 20,000 a month. But of course, as we move into peak season hiring, it's getting close. November is right around the corner. We tend to hire more temporary employees to help us get through peak. And so that can sometimes spike to a significant amount more of applicants.
Great. Thank you so much, Lauren. Another question that folks may be eager to hear about that you may have touched on lightly is, are there other digital services that USPS is developing that we should be looking forward to?
Sure, I'll take that one as well. So in the digital business services arena, we're looking at ways that we can leverage our both physical and infrastructure to bring in new revenue streams for the organization, as well as align with the public good. A couple of other avenues that we're looking at is in the address and geospatial arena. We know a lot about addresses. We know a lot about mapping. We have to know a lot about mapping to be efficient as we send carriers out on their routes every day. We pick up data from the carriers as they're traversing their routes in 1-second breadcrumbs, which is essentially the geocode of locations. What we find is that the Postal Service carrier is often in locations before the mapping companies even know that there are roads there. And so we're looking at creating new address and geospatial services to be able to offer to the geospatial marketplace for mapping purposes. So that's one area. The other area is looking at all of those vehicles that I said are traversing 4.5 million miles a day. We're looking at potentially putting sensors on those vehicles and collecting data. It could be air quality data, broadband spectrum information, data to assess road conditions and roadway assets, to provide information back to communities so that they know where to invest their dollars if you think about roadway repairs. This is in kind of the R&D space at the moment. But we are definitely exploring this. We've got a lot of privacy folks on the line. And so that's something that we also take very seriously in terms of how do we collect this data? How do we anonymize it so that it's very privacy preserving, but be able to still pull out the insights for the local communities as they're looking to make investments.
Great. Thank you so much, Lauren. All right. And a question and a little bit of a story from our attendees is, does the public have access to know which USPS locations are biometrics capable? Recently had an employee on board at another agency, and they had to coordinate the fingerprint card with the local police department, as suggested by the agency's ID badge office.
Yeah, I'll take that one. So if you go on the FBI website, they actually will provide you, when you're signing up to enroll, they'll provide you a list of all of the locations that we are currently in. So they do direct that over.
And I think what we're looking to build upon, though, is to be able to offer this service to other agencies as an option to send their new employees that are looking to get a background check so that they could come into the Postal Service to get their fingerprints. Right now, that's not in place, but very soon, we're hoping that we get through a couple of pilots where we can expand those services. And if there are any agencies here on the line that are interested, please feel free to reach out. We'd love to explore the opportunity.
All right, great. Thank you both. All right, this will be our last question for today. To build upon that previous question about upcoming digital services, is there a time frame where you anticipate these services will be available to your agency partners?
Sure, I can take that. Today we're working with the FBI and we're looking to expand over the course of this coming year, and we've got quite an aggressive expansion plan over the next couple of years. We are going to partner with GSA on a couple of the services that Heather mentioned. So providing in-person proofing service for the Login.gov program, as well as address verification for Login.gov. And so that's planned for this upcoming year. So those are two on the near horizon to be on the lookout for. But what I will say is we have in-person proofing capability at 17,000 locations that Heather mentioned. And so if this is a need for your agency to have another option for proofing for your agencies, again, please reach out. It's a fairly simple process to onboard. We have the APIs established. And so it's something that we could turn on fairly quickly if that's a service that that the agency needs.
Awesome. Thank you so much, both of you. And thanks to all of our attendees for all those great questions. Now we'll go over to Tiffany Andrews. She's one of our senior product managers at Login.gov. She'll moderate our discussion with several of our federal government partners. They'll highlight best practices and lessons learned for identity management.
Thanks, Melissa. I'm looking forward to chatting with this group of experts. As we move into the panel portion of the program, we would love to hear from you first. Yes, that means we have another Zoom poll for you. If you are unable to see the poll since you're viewing from the browser, please put your answer in the chat. Our question is, what is the biggest pain point in implementing your identity management solutions? I see some who have already started. We have acquisitions. Looks like operations and maintenance is kind of taking over. Cost, other. I feel like I'm like a horse race announcer. But operations looks like it's still in the lead. We'll give you all a few more seconds. I see COVID as something that that is one of the biggest hurdles as well. Still have a few more chances. Operations and training. This is definitely very helpful for all of us to know some of your biggest pain points in implementing identity management solutions. Physical site and availability and infrastructure. Integration, security. Looks like we have it with 46% for operation and maintenance. I am so excited to be talking to these individuals that we're speaking with next around best practices and lessons learned in identity management in federal government. I would like to introduce to you Sanjay Gupta, Chief Technology Officer for Small Business Administration, Adrienne Lustica, Supervisory Analyst for Policy and Systems at the Railroad Retirement Board, Josh White, Product Officer, Maker Service Developer Experience at National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, Darren Ash, Chief Information Officer for Farm Production and Conservation Mission Area at the United States Department of Agriculture. And you had just heard from her, but she'll also be joining us, Heather Dyer from United States Postal Service. Welcome, everyone. So I have a few quick questions. We're going to have a lot of great time today. So first up, I would like to really know a little bit more about your work at each one of your agencies and how identity management is advancing your team's mission. And then also, what role is TTS doing in supporting you in these goals? We're going to go in alphabetical order. Everyone gets about a minute or so, and we're going to start out with Adrienne.
Hi there. I'm with the Railroad Retirement Board. We offer unemployment, sickness, and retirement benefits to the entire railroad worker community of the United States. And we do offer a number of benefits and services online. And using identity management, we were able to offer those services securely and safely through our web portal, especially now during COVID and remote working at home. Thank you.
Next up, Darren, you're on. Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Darren Ash, again with U.S. Department of Agriculture. My mission area of responsibility is to engage and support America's farmers, ranchers, and producers in areas of everything from disaster programs to help with conservation practices. So it's a wide range of things that we do to support, like I said, America's farmers. When I think about identity management and this topic, clearly, as our customers engage with us, we have a strong interest, obviously, that they engage with us and apply for programs in a secure way. And obviously, we know who they are. And so this definitely and clearly helps us through these practices.
Thanks, Darren. Heather.
Hi, Heather Dyer. You just heard from me, and I think everybody knows what the U.S. Postal Service can offer everyone. So we have a lot going on around modernizing a lot of our technology related to identity, both internal and customer facing, to really streamline and improve the customer experience. We just talked about a few of them: in-person proofing and the biometrics capture, really leveraging Postal Service's unique infrastructure and asset, and really look to provide an approach for American citizens as one-stop shop and help to, grow you guys, the rest of the agency's ability to offer their online products and services as well.
Thank you, Heather. And last but not least, oh, sorry, we have Josh White with NGA.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Josh White again with the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. For those that don't know, we're the lead federal agency for GeoInt. So think of maps and the intelligence you can gain from maps. One of the things, and I'm a product owner within the agency. So one of the goals that was given to me is to advance our partnership opportunities with the many federal industry, academic, and other partners that we have within, for the agency. So having a common identity management solution that was accessible and applicable to all of those groups of folks, both within the federal government and accessible to our industry and academic partners, was a crucial piece to advancing that.
Thanks so much, Josh. And Sanjay from SBA.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Tiffany, for having me here. I'm Sanjay Gupta. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at the Small Business Administration. And certainly the two things from my perspective for identity management have been using it as a service. So everything I'm trying to do at the SBA is use it as a service. So certainly Login.gov is a easy slam dunk solution there, and we've been working on it since almost a couple, 2.5+ years. And the second aspect is about, I should have probably started with that, is improving customer experiences. And certainly in this case, we started outside in, meaning our citizens and small business entities and entrepreneurs and startups, helping them have a better experience as they interact with the SBA using an identity management or a common identity management solution that we've implemented so far. To your second part of the question, Tiffany, about TTS, certainly we've been partnering with your team, Phil and others, and a wonderful team to partner with for the last 2.5+ years in implementing the solutions. And then I'm mostly excited with what I heard Heather and Lauren talk about, because we are in the early stages of doing IAL2 or identity proofing. I knew the USPS was looking to do that. So certainly you can sign up for SBA as at least one of your first set of customers wanting to leverage the identity proofing services from our side. So I will certainly be reaching out to you, Heather, as well as Lauren.
Connections are already happening in the summit already. So thanks, Sanjay. I have a quick follow-up question in terms of what lessons would you share with other federal agencies that are exploring or just getting started with proofing? Adrian, I'll go ahead and kick it off to you first.
Thanks. Thanks, Tiffany. We're coming up on 1 year of our partnership live with IAL2 with Login.gov. For us, it was an exciting opportunity being a smaller agency, being able to leverage their experience and work with someone from the ground floor that would also offer up some guidance for us as well. Being a smaller agency, we didn't have the resources to modernize a lot of our legacy systems, while we wanted to offer those securely to all our citizens, as well as addressing all the mandates and guidelines in NIST 863.3. So it's been quite the experience so far, because we decided to rebrand our website as well, offering all our benefit online services now as My RRB. I wouldn't necessarily suggest rebranding your entire website while you undertake identity management. But working with Login.gov has been great, especially us having growing pains, entering the identity space and just growing with them. We know how responsive they've been. So for us, one of the biggest benefits to this partnership is just that they have been so responsive. I mean, you know who you can pick up the phone and call if you need to, without a lot of levels in between. You know who you can provide feedback to for any improvements or potential suggestions or any issues that you're having. So one of the biggest lessons learned, coming up on the subject of feedback, is you can't have enough feedback. At the beginning of every project, everyone always likes to say, how are we going to measure our success? What is our metric of success? And a lot of people like to stand up, well, we want to see this proofing percentage rate within 3 months, or we want to transfer our entire 1 million plus user community. I mean, for us, it was a lot smaller, but once they're all on login.gov, then we know we are successful. But that doesn't necessarily speak to the entire user experience. And I think that I would urge everyone to consider the user experience and build in feedback loops and surveys or any methodology you can come up with to get feedback, both negative and positive, because everyone might be quick to call their congressperson and say, oh, I hated this service and it was just terrible. But how many people would call their congressman and say, hey, I just had a great multi-factor authentication experience? That's few and far between. So even though somebody might successfully authenticate or verify their identity, there's always room for improvement. There's always pain points in there, and especially as Login.gov grows, and we've grown with them over the past year, we learned that we need to have more engagement with our end users, especially the positive ones that we don't necessarily hear from, to see where there is room for improvement.
Yeah, customer services and experience is one of our main pillars here at Login, and we're excited that RRB is definitely partnering with us on that. Darren, could you tell us a lot more about kind of your experience at USDA and the H-2 visa project?
Sure, thank you. So your reference about the H-2A visa program, for those that don't know, it has to do with farmers and producers that are seeking to bring foreign agricultural workers into the country, and that requires them to navigate, believe it or not, 4 different departments to be able to get approval. Everything from Department of Labor, State, DHS, I'm just blanking on the 4th one, I'm sorry. But when we think about the H-2A visa program, one of the things that was of interest and is of interest to the farmers is checking on their status. Because of how many steps it had that they have to go through, trying to create a very seamless, very simple way for them to check the status in a secure manner. And so our use of Login.gov recently was a central point to that approach, which was enabling a producer to see where their application was in a secure way with the Department of Labor and the Department of Homeland Security via a simple dashboard. And you know, I tie it to the other question that you asked about lessons learned, and it did tie into this point of why we use Login.gov is put yourself in the shoes of a citizen. You certainly, I don't want to have multiple credentials to interact with multiple agencies. And the more that we can focus on a federated approach, a simple approach, makes it easier for them to engage with government.
Thanks, Darren. Following also within that thread around customer service and also trust in protecting data, I have a question for Heather and Sanjay. What ways is the USPS combating bias to make the public experience more equitable and accessible in the identity space? We'll start with you, Heather.
Thanks. Yeah, I think it's important to note that a secure identity is really composed of multiple factors, right? So we are looking at, you know, advanced algorithms to help create that high level of assurance. We're always looking at leveraging new technology. Of course, we have the biometrics and we have address verification and of course the identity and the IAL2 certification. But it's really, even for the remote options, it's looking at technology such as device reputation, and it's really combining that all around to have a picture, an overall picture of somebody and their identity, realizing not everybody falls into the same brackets, right? I think the accessibility, that's clear from our footprint, right? That's one of the things we really pride ourselves on, is that we know that not everybody, you know, is savvy with computers, or there may be reasons why they can't be proofed remotely. So we do offer, you can still sign up for our products and services. We have mail options where we can validate your identity through a code sent in the mail. We also have, you know, the in-person proofing opportunity. And we do make sure that everybody has access, right? There's a post office near all of the US population. And we are starting the vision, like Darren said, about the federated identity, and really, you know, trying to combine forces with other agencies to have that one true picture of a citizen and their identity. And with all of that, I think that's the biggest thing, is removing the friction from the customer experience. You know, the pass rates right now for remote proofing are not great. The experience sometimes is not the best that it can. So that's really where we want to place most of our effort when we're looking at technology and identity, and making sure that, you know, we are able to offer all government products and services to the population as they expect it.
And Sanjay, I know you've done a lot of work, especially around transparency and accessibility in this space. Can you let us know a little bit more in detail how you're combating bias within SBA?
Absolutely, and I think just to sort of add to what Heather said, certainly customer experience is first and foremost for us. We launched the initiative, or I had the vision back in 2017 for an enterprise single sign-on approach, if you will. And of course, we used one of the identity solution providers, Login.gov, in that solution space. And we started outside in, like I talked about a little while earlier, and we're doing an inside out as well. So for internal customers as well as external to SBA customers as well. So in terms of being equitable and accessible, so sort of, let me just give a very simple example. And this is probably true for all pretty much major identity providers, including Login.gov. The second factor, you have multiple ways to get the second factor in. It's just not a text message. It could be an email, it could be a phone call, and like Heather talked about, it could be actually in the postal mail as well, a unique identifier or a code that you would need as your second factor example, right? So from an accessibility standpoint, there's many ways to get the second factor in, right? And I'm only talking IAL1 at this point, right? And then you start looking about IAL2 or identity proofing. I'm so excited to hear that, you know, we may be able to leverage the abilities and the wide footprint that the USPS offers 99% of the US population is within 10 miles. That's an amazing statistic, right? One of our mission areas is disaster support. And obviously when disasters strike, the disaster survivors are submitting their applications for getting a loan, which is an SBA loan in this case, to overcome the disaster situation they are facing. And obviously they are in a traumatic condition to begin with. And the least thing they want to do is another hurdle to even submit their applications. Obviously, a USPS post office is certainly a known entity. So I'm hoping they would know where the nearest post office is, assuming that's not been impacted by the disaster, or the next nearest one, right? So that could be a viable option for them to be able to access it and do it in any manner they feel comfortable, right? We have to always recognize the fact that when in a disaster situation, things we take for granted, electricity, internet connectivity, and so on and so forth, your home, your papers, your records may or may not be accessible to you yourself as a survivor. So the ability to have multiple ways to get your information proved and identity confirmed is certainly the aspect of that. And last but not the least, I know the one element that I'm seeing here is as the Login.gov footprint increases, citizens will, let's say they have created an ID or user ID and a password for Login.gov. And as they're transacting across different agencies, and if they are at the back end using the same identity provider, in this case, Login.gov, now you have the ability to, what I call is, ask for this information once and use many. And that's one of the things we're trying to do at the SBA is don't keep asking for the same information from the same customer multiple times. Ask it once, protect it, secure it, make it available as you need it in a subsequent manner. And in this case, the beauty is if it's being handled by Login.gov, and I can consume it as a service, more the power to it. So long ways of answering that question, but hopefully, Tiffany, that kind of gives you our perspective on it.
It gives me a crystal clear perspective. Thanks, Heather and Sanjay. I also feel like you teed it up for the next question I'm going to throw to Josh around balancing customer experience, privacy, and security. How is NGA doing that work?
So for NGA, so we are utilizing the partnership with Login.gov. As an identity provider, we are not utilizing the identity proofing at this point. We do use an internal process for that. But we have taken the approach that we want users to have full ownership of their identity. So being able to access all their information, control their information, and be able to say who gets and does not get that information, which the Login.gov service provides much of that. It was a critical component to securing and making sure that the ownership of the identity was the individual's right there. From other perspectives, we utilized and really looked hard at Login.gov as a solution for us because of many of the things that have already been talked about. Strong authentication, standards-based compliance. So having that strong Open ID Connect standards-based compliance, which allowed us quick interoperability and integration with other systems to pass information securely and manage that from that perspective. That was absolutely critical to us. And the support for a variety of second factor authentication technologies with that as well. And we've kind of taken the approach, we use Login.gov for the identity, to provide identity. We have established a identity broker, which then kind of provides a little more transparent or user. It's more of a user experience to mask some of the things that I think we all deal with the multiple accounts within our organizations that have to be created for various use cases. So having the identity provided by a common identity provider, Login.gov, be brokered through a third party, which we are utilizing Keycloak, which is an open source software stack to provide that identity brokering for secure passing of those credentials to the various account management solutions, directory services, and other things within our environment. Really create a seamless user experience where they only have to manage one account, and we can do that in a very safe and secure way.
Thanks, Josh. I'm going to do a quick round robin. You only can answer with one thing, so I'm going to stick to the one thing. So we know that we've already talked a lot around like digital identity account management on the federal side. We also know that there's kind of things that an individual who has an account can do to protect their information, as well as passwords and credentials. What is one thing you would encourage someone who is creating or setting up a new digital identity account to do? We're going to start with Darren.
You pick on me first. Don't write it down and stick it on a sticky note. It's an interesting question. I think obviously avoiding the same password, and it's protect your identity, keep it safe, and avoid repetition. That's probably my best answer.
Okay, thanks. Heather.
I did like the sticky note one. I think that's the one victim, right? I think keep it complex but easy to remember. You know, and think of it, it's the crown jewels to all of your information and data. So take it seriously and own your identity.
Thanks, Heather. Adrian?
Yeah, I would agree with what Heather said and Josh's earlier comments. Definitely, again, the sticky note I think is a common thread among all of us. I mean, one of the things most common is forgetting your password, but these things have a level of complexity built into it, and users are starting to realize that they need to treat it seriously and that their identity is not something to be taken lightly. So I would agree with the other comments about just having people treat that identity seriously and think about having possibly a individual email account that they use just for their identity that they don't share with any other entity. That would be one of the suggestions that I would take away from that.
Sanjay.
Not much to add to what my esteemed colleagues have already said. I think the two things I would say is digital identities is certainly the future for all of us, and we need to take it very seriously. So it's just repetition of what we've said. So one way to think about it is in our respective organizations, trying to reduce the number of user IDs and passwords, unique number of those. So that, some kind of initiative around it. And so obviously using like a service like Login.gov helps you towards that. Now, the reality is we'll still be having multiple user IDs and passwords in any given environment. So my suggestion would be is consider investing into some kind of a password manager because you will eventually have to, quote unquote, the equivalent of a sticky note, manage your passwords and still hold your credentials in a secure manner. So at this point, I think in time of the explosion of identities, I think we all might be benefited by investing, whether on a personal space or in a private space, or in a, I don't know if the government has yet to approve that we all use a password manager, which allows us to do that. And I know, there are many kind of hardware-based devices like YubiKey, somebody saying in the chat, but there's also non-hardware-based solutions as well. So invest in a password manager is really, I think, important for all of us to think about.
All right, thanks. Josh, I'm giving you the hardest job of the panel today to round it out.
So I think that all the panelists brought up great things. Yes, if we could all stop writing our passwords on sticky notes, that's a fundamental. For Login.gov specifically, one of the things that we've observed is making sure that you have multiple factors of authentication for your identity within Login.gov. Make sure you protect that. You know, having, you know, for us federal folks that are associated with the DoD, we have common access cards that we can tie to it. I saw the YubiKey thread. There are many other ways to do that, but utilizing multiple factors of authentication and tying those to your account so you don't lose access to your identity, I think, is a key as well.
Completely agree. I was waiting for that. I think one I would add is, like the panelists have already said, it's your information, it's your identity. So also make sure your information is up to date with your current financial institutions to also help streamline that. So we've come to the time where we would love to take a few different audience questions. So please use that chat. So drop them in, but I will go ahead and kick things off with this one. So what are the unique security challenges of an identity management service, and how has your agency overcome these challenges? Go for it, Josh.
So unique challenges, of course, we have many partnerships throughout the federal agencies, our academic partners, and industry partners. So everybody has their own unique way of preferring to operate. Coming up with standards-based solutions that cut across that and provide a consistent user experience is key. With Login.gov, that is a great solution for providing that. That we have found for identity management and as an identity solution provider. So that's a huge piece of it. After that, you know, I talked a little bit about it. So making sure that you're managing all the different accounts that we each have inside our organizations and allowing users a single identity across those accounts, I think is another key attribute to that. And it's, you know, from my perspective, it is significantly about allowing users to manage their own identity, providing that consistent user experience across the platforms, and making that experience the best possible.
Cool. The next question will go to Darren. Other than Login.gov, are there other ICAM services that your agency would benefit from if they were provided as a government-wide shared service?
So I'll speak to, thank you. That was a very good question. I know for USDA, we do have our own ICAM service that's been established, and we've continued to evolve it and improve it over time. But I think it ties to something I mentioned earlier, which is the term federated. We all benefit for the government to establish that federated model, so that even though if you have a Login.gov account, you would be able to access our services as well, or vice versa. So I think establishing the federation, establishing trust benefits all, as opposed to, again, creating a standalone or something just so unique. It doesn't help.
Thank you. Heather, what is the next use case you are bringing online because you know you have a trusted identity capability?
I think I mean, I don't think it's a next one. I think it's kind of the three that we've talked about already with offering. For Postal, it's really offering those services to other government agencies that need that service in our footprint. So, you know, address verification, we're certainly excited to get that developed and in use, you know, partnership with Login.gov as well.
Thanks. And this final question is for Sanjay. What emerging technologies or standards in identity or authentication are you most excited about?
I think there is another emerging or a startup company which is using your voice to authenticate yourself. So it's a combination of voice and your cell phone, and they use that to uniquely identify that you are who you are. I'd seen a demonstration of one of these startups. I forget the name of that company, but that sort of was very intriguing to me. Another aspect is sort of, and we deal with it from a disaster standpoint, and I know it's not directly related to identity, but sort of near enough, is about, so let's say, you're submitting evidence of, let's say, destruction to your property or your assets, right? You're submitting pictures, if you will, right? How do you ensure the authenticity of these pictures, that these are actually, authentic? So there are technologies today available that allow you to do that. But sort of, just not to directly answer your question, but I'll kind of leave the audience and this panel here with a kind of thought. Hopefully that'll incite some thinking and further dialogue around it. Is, I mean, if you think about it, there's something called the Social Security Administration, which grants a unique identifier to each of the citizens in this country, right? Maybe it's time to renew and reimagine what that Social Security identification is, to be more current with the today's times of a digital identity. I don't know what shape or form it will take, but we, when I say we, the larger we as the United States federal government, are in that position where we create these things. And won't it be nice if we, for a moment, thought about reimagining that, and that becomes our ability to, create our digital identities at the time of a person being granted a Social Security number. So I kind of want to leave the audience and people with that thought that there should be some ways we should be reimagining that.
Leaving us with a challenge to reimagine things. Thank you. I want to thank everyone who has submitted a question for us today. And I also want to thank my lovely panelists for the opportunity to hear about your great experiences and share out best practices. I'm going to go ahead and turn this back over to Melissa. Thank you all so much.
Thanks so much, Tiffany, and thank you to all of our great panelists. Now we're going to welcome back the Railroad Retirement Board. Michelle Triplett will share how RRB implemented Login.gov's authentication and identity verification services. Through close collaboration with RRB, Login.gov has improved the user experience for accessing and managing benefits online. Michelle is an IT project manager at RRB and has 15 years of experience in project management. She's focused on systems modernization, software development, infrastructure, and business process improvement. Over to you, Michelle.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Wanted to thank you all for this opportunity. It is an exciting time to talk about impact to Railroad Retirement Board. And if we were in the room and all the panelists were around, I'd be saying, hey, everybody give it a clap up and congratulate the panelists that have went ahead of me. Definitely a tough act to follow, but absolutely. Let's talk about the Railroad Retirement Board and the impact that's happened with us in our experience. I'm presenting, but I definitely would be remiss if I did not acknowledge the input that goes into this information being presented. Adrian Lustica presented some of the information and he presented the cake. Hopefully I'll be able to add some icing to that. And as far as our Director of Programs, Crystal Coleman, and our Director of Policy and Systems, Kim Price, and our CIO, Taryn Murphy. I definitely want to acknowledge their input to the information being presented today. And honorary mention to Judy Fallish, who also was the IT project manager at the implementation of our engagement with Login.gov. So with that, next slide, please. Just give a brief overview of what we'll cover here. Talk a little bit about who RRB is as an agency, and then talk through the business need that evolved and engaged us with Login.gov, a little bit about the experience with Login.gov from a project perspective, and now in our experience as a customer and partner with them, and then talk about what I believe would be the meat and potatoes of this presentation, the business impact and our success story with our partnership with Login.gov. Next slide. So high level, talk about RRB. This is our website here, and Adrian alluded to the benefits that we do provide. Our mission is to administer programs for our railroad community of workers and their families in the area of their retirement and survivor, unemployment, and sickness benefits and disability. And you also see in the bottom corner there, the My RRB portal. This is our view, our window into the world from RRB perspective. Our agency is small but mighty, with a workforce of approximately 800 employees, but our reach is significant. We have over 500,000 beneficiaries that we service at the RRB. Next slide, we'll talk about My RRB and our portal. And this is where our Login.gov services come into play, in that we have services available online at RRB around the area, specifically for unemployment and sickness benefits. We can, our railroad community is able to submit application information in the area we call UISI, and also make claims specifically with sickness benefits. In the area of retirement information, we're able to, our railroad community is able to see their earnings and their service and comp information through our portal at RRB, and also to do a little calculating, see in the bottom right-hand corner, the annuity rate calculations that can be performed. Is our online services as of today available? Next slide, please. If we look back, let's talk about the business need that lent itself for services through Login.gov. Prior to Login.gov and our partnership with them, we had PIN password. Our original authentication methodology was the PIN password, which was essentially postal mail authentication and proofing for our railroad community of workers and customers. But we needed a quicker solution to authenticate. You know, in a rapidly evolving online presence in the industry of IT in general, we needed more than just the postal service as our method. So there was also the change a few years back with the NIST 863 guidance, revision 3, for updating in the 3 levels IAL levels of authentication and assurance for online services, levels 1 through 3, which presented the platform and the need for servicing that we needed for Login.gov. Next slide. I'd also like to mention that, so previous slides spoke to, and I tried to keep this really high level so that we could really highlight the impact of our experience with Login.gov. So the first few slides were very high level, you know, review and kind of like the platform that was set up. So as Adrian has already spoken to previously, our engagement and how our experience has been with them. But I want to fast forward to our experience now. So RRB is in production with Login.gov. We're not pilot, we're in production with them, and also kind of stayed away from a whole lot of stats on things just so we could speak to and have a good conversation around the experience. If the major impact that has happened with RRB and with our country and worldwide in general, the pandemic. In March 2020, our railroad community were doing mass furloughs and downsizing of their operations, and government agencies in general were downsizing and or closing their offices temporarily for various reasons in response to the pandemic. Next slide. What benefit came from that experience and being in the pandemic, which we're not out of it. We're not out of wave 1, and they're already talking about wave 2 of the pandemic. But what we experienced when the pandemic was ramping up in March was an increase in traffic to our online services, which we saw on the previous slides. Those online services, as far as our community of railroad workers that were needing to apply for unemployment or needing to apply for sickness services, traffic was being driven up. So in this chart, you'll see I tried to match up the number of accounts, the new accounts, focusing in on the February, March, April, May area of experience with new accounts. This was the accounts that were coming in to our MyRRB and trying to access those services that were available. And what I want to highlight also is the time to resolution as far as the servicing through Login.gov. From a perspective of customer service and tech support, Login.gov was right there tracking along the way. The average resolution time around April and May, was about 4.5 hours. And as you see going along the way with each month going forward, that resolution time was going down, which speaks volumes to Railroad Retirement Board. And like I mentioned earlier, we're a small agency as far as our workforce. So if we compare our previous solution, which the solution is still there as a secondary, although we're looking forward to maybe some partnering with the in-person proofing, USPS. Hint, hint, we also want to have some discussions of how to leverage their services there. But if we compare the PIN password methodology, and if we only had that solution for authentication and the time of such a high uptick for traffic with our online services, our workforce supporting that area for online services would not have been able to be as responsive as Login.gov was. The infrastructure with their services and the tech support to help curtail. I think I'm speaking to my thunder on my next slide. Go to the next slide. Their customer support. Like I mentioned, they were able to curtail some of the workload of supporting our railroad community for that level of online traffic. I like to segue. So that's the major impact that we thank you all for this opportunity to talk through from RRB's experience with Login.gov. So from an impact of specifically the pandemic, but also other areas of just our experience ongoing. Yes, we're live and in production, but we're still frequently having communication. We're very appreciative of how readily available they are when we have a need for any changes during the pandemic. Some of the GPO letter verification access, the GPO office had closed, and Login.gov and our tech talks with them was readily available to put language on the website to say, you know, this is what you should do. We, RRB, had our PIN password authentication still in place, so we could supplement in that time of emergency, but they were readily available to make modifications to keep our customer experience as fluid, as continuous, and minimizing any break in service for them. I would say also, as far as the different, the customer support is a little different for our community think about it, these are retirees, the demographics around them, they still prefer that in-person touch point, but our, like Adrian mentioned earlier, we do have our field service offices, so they're available, and we've done our best to try to keep in the loop. Login.gov has provided their like training slides on the experience for our field service offices to even walk our customers through. This is what Login.gov, my RRB, and that portal to get to the services we have available. They're frequently communicating with us. We still have our weekly tag up meetings where we talk through what's going well. We talk through our statistics, and they're always available with a wealth of information, even just general activity with onboarding other agencies. We appreciate that. And like I mentioned earlier, the resolution times and statistics like that. Next slide. So that's the core of the presentation. We have some contact information here. Adrian Lustica and myself as the leads for the experience with RRB and our Login.gov services. Next slide, I believe, is questions. Q&A, yes. Woo, I made it.
Thank you so much, Michelle. That was great. Now it's time for questions, like you said. So please, everyone, put them in the chat box and we'll get to as many as possible. So we've got one up here already. A big emphasis to this event is really understanding challenges and best practices. To that end, a question I have that you may have mentioned a bit during your presentation is, what technical hurdles did your agency face in adopting IAL2 identity verification?
So the technical hurdles, actually, in hindsight, at the time of us implementing and being in project mode with them, I was on the business side for one of the services that was available. But I do remember in conversation from the IT perspective, is that it was almost seamless. The more complex part of the project and implementing was more of the politics internal. Like, they were very flexible in establishing stand up of the IT infrastructure that may or may not have been there. It was their agile approach to development was very helpful also. So it wasn't the waterfall approach of all or nothing, and they were very flexible and getting tangible results. That agile approach will get you more tangible results regularly and get you something that feels like, yes, we're progressing towards the goal. So in hindsight, the experience of implementing the tech was relatively seamless.
Great, that's great to hear. Thank you. So a final question we have for you today. So we're always pushing to be more customer-centric. How have your constituents received the Login.gov remote identity proofing services?
So we've received really good feedback as far as it being, clear and concise. Like we mentioned earlier, you're going to hear more responses from people that are having challenges versus people that are, everything goes well. But even our customers that do have issues, our field service offices, there's 53 of them across the US, and they're very engaged. And we regularly update them with information so that they can do that hand holding where, our customer base is not able, is tech savvy or just wants somebody in person to help them, tell them what they most likely already know. But that customer support aspect, we've gotten good reviews. We have over 36,000 accounts as of now, active accounts. And with our experience so far, we're looking to possibly expanding that. Everybody's plates are busy with other IT initiatives, but we're definitely appreciative of the level of service and the cutting edge that we're having with Login.gov. Like, it's exciting to see all the agencies involved with this summit, and even like the pivot conversations. We've had a chance to kind of talk with other agencies about our experience, and the awareness is growing and growing. So I imagine that's going to be the major thing that pours into our along the way. It will just make the customer experience more and more better.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Michelle. We really appreciate it. Next, we're going to go for some closing thoughts from Phil Lamb, our Executive Director of Identity.
Thank you. Today, we highlighted the identity focus area at TTS. The goal of this focus area is to help our partners with best-in-class citizen identity solutions, guidance, and thought leadership on identity management topics. Currently, identity shared services through TTS have served over 25 million Americans with Login.gov, and we're continuing to expand our offerings with trusted government identity validation services and others. Thank you all for attending, and thanks to all our speakers and panelists. Hopefully, you were able to gain new perspectives from this event that relate to your agency's mission. We at TTS are here to help address the challenges you face today and plan for the scenarios tomorrow. Whether they be working to help you service more constituents via an online channel through services like Login and Cloud.gov, or through strategic planning and execution with 18F. We're here to make you all more successful in your mission delivery. Special thanks to our GSA leadership and our agency partners. We couldn't do any of this work without your continued support and sponsorship. If you have any more questions or would like to connect with us further, please feel free to contact us at tts-info@gsa.gov. Please take a few minutes to complete our feedback survey. The link is being dropped in the chat and will be sent out post-event as well. Also, as we mentioned in the beginning, this is the 5th event in a series of events powered by TTS. We hope that you'll join us and continue to grow with us as the series evolves. Thank you again, and have a great rest of your day.